KSI versus Joe Fournier is looking like KSI's next big fight, and it got me thinking, if or when these guys collide, who would win? Now after analysing both KSI and Joe Fournier, I've come to a conclusion. This fight won't even be close. So here's why KSI beats Joe Fournier, and why it probably won't even be close. First we must look at their physical attributes, along with their stats, records, etc. KSI has a record of 5-0-1, with 4 KOs, giving him an 80% KO rate, and 6 fights under his belt. We will get to the level of competition in a second. He is 5'11" and has a reach of 76 inches. Now Joe Fournier is 6 foot with a reach of also 76 inches. His record is 9-1-0, with 8 wins of way by TKO and 1 by corner stoppage, putting his KO rate at 100%. Again, we will have a look at who he has fought and what this really means in context. So from the physical attributes, we can see that although Joe Fournier has a slight reach advantage, really everything is similar, with both having a 76-inch reach. The only thing which is an advantage for Joe Fournier is the record of 9-1. This is an advantage because of the experience he has, but we must keep in mind that he was mostly active in 2015 and 16, with a return in 2021 in April and September, and then nothing really since then. So the ring rust he has acquired since his prime means that his experience gap from KSI is not so significant, as all of that experience would be slightly rusty and less useful to him today. KSI has been much more active recently, and although his opponents haven't been amazing people, he's at least been training hard recently and been performing while Joe hasn't. This at least slightly closes that experience gap in terms of the advantage that Joe would otherwise have. Again, the experience gap isn't that huge, with KSI having 6 fights and Joe Fournier having 10. Enough of that, let's get to look at the level of competition. KSI has faced Joe Weller, Logan Paul twice, Swarms, Pineda and Temper. Now at face value it isn't great, and in reality it isn't too great either. However, he has faced Logan Paul, who was by far his toughest opponent. Logan Paul actually applied pressure on him and even had the height and reach advantage. Despite this, KSI twice combated the pressure that was applied on him, coming forward and doing damage himself. With Swarms, Pineda and Temper, they were basically punching bags to him, and he was able to destroy them and push the pace with no consequences. These weren't really a test for KSI, but definitely gave him experience. Joe Fournier has fought many people, with his latest opponent being Raycon, who was at the time he fought Joe 0-0-0. He fought David Haye, which was his biggest test, and he lost. His record contains boxers who are alright but nothing special, apart from David Haye, who of course is a great boxer. He's fought guys like Jose Santos, who is 0-8, obviously with a 0% KO ratio, which is obviously not great. For the most part, Joe Fournier hasn't really been tested either, and has been able to beat most of his opponents simply because they gave him nothing back. So the real way to determine why KSI will beat Joe is through a skill analysis. The first thing that really stood out to me was that in Joe Fournier's most recent fight, although his opponent was not very active, Joe Fournier wasn't pushing the pace as much as he could have. Sure, he was the one pushing the pace, but when he did throw a punch, they lacked technique and were sloppy. Now I'll get onto the technique and punches later, but let's stay on the topic of pressure. He's not nearly as active as KSI. Here's the difference. When KSI's opponents are standing there, he'll be coming forward, throwing combos, looking to land a big shot. When Joe Fournier's opponent stands there, he occasionally throws that jab out there or a hook to the body most of the time. This doesn't just apply with his fight with Raycon, as people say he wasn't taking that seriously. He generally, in most of his fights, isn't as active as he could be. This just won't cut it with someone like KSI, who is constantly looking for an entry in. Joe Fournier needs to be lighter on his toes, moving in and out, looking for a chance to hit. There were multiple chances in his fight with Raycon to come in and cause damage in the first round, but he stayed very reluctant and only threw the same combinations when he had the chance. He's very flat-footed and walks around the ring. KSI is much the opposite way. We need to talk about his form. This could be the reason he loses to KSI. A lot of the time his hands are down because he has a low guard. He only raises his guard when a punch is thrown, which obviously happens because the punch that's being thrown to him is telegraphed. Otherwise, he seems a bit too relaxed in there and almost doesn't expect his opponent to throw anything crazy. Now in KSI's most recent fight, we saw what happens when your defense isn't too great against him. KSI used these feints to test to see if his opponents react. Even in a case where Temper had his hands up, he could tell whether or not Temper was reacting to these punches. When Temper didn't react, he went in. This could cause a serious issue for Fournier, as KSI could pounce in at any moment and Fournier may not be able to react. Fournier is flat-footed, and with the low guard he has, this naturally puts him at a higher risk of being caught by one of KSI's combinations. That could end the fight. The even bigger problem lies with the punches themselves. In his last fight, it seems like he wasn't technically that sharp. Again, this isn't just his fight with Raycon, can. Now this might come with age or ring rust, but we have to remember that he is fighting KSI being older than when he was fighting Raycon, and also with pretty much the same ring rust. Joe Fournier, when throwing a punch, has no form or technique. He leaves himself widely open with these shots, and this means that he can get caught by KSI. KSI has not always had the best combinations, but recently his punch variation has increased, and we're seeing combinations and shots thrown that are different to what we saw with Logan Paul, for example. This means that when Joe Fournier throws a punch with less of a form, KSI can capitalize and can throw an uppercut or a hook, and if executed quick enough, should be able to hurt him. I think this really comes down to a few things. One is the pressure that KSI brings. Joe Fournier may crumble under the pressure, as many do, losing his form and technique further, which then leads to the next thing. KSI can use his skill and technique to pick apart Fournier when his form is less, and KSI can then use his power to really punish Fournier here. It won't be a round 1 KO for KSI, but I think in the later rounds we can expect a TKO for KSI, and generally this fight just won't be close in the rounds leading up to that. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.